All right. Hello and welcome to this week's live office hours. Casey, how's it going, man?
Good. Things are good. Weather's heating up in Boston, which is good. The Red Sox are heating up as well. So yeah, things are good. And
Hey.
seems like a lot of sellers are heating up as well, getting back into the swing of things. A lot of people
Yeah.
setting up, looking for different strategies, both on Walmart and Amazon. So yeah, it's been a fun couple weeks here.
Nice. Yeah. It feels like there's a lot more excitement and activity happening. I kind of felt that starting maybe end of last week, just from what I'm seeing, a lot more people chatting, kind of jumping around, making some moves. So that's exciting. It feels like we're coming out of the hibernation quarter, which is kind of weird. I swear Amazon sellers legitimately go into hibernation mode during Q1, not even just January, the entire
Yeah.
quarter, which is
Yeah.
so crazy to me. Because I feel like I didn't really do that when I was a seller. It was just keep going, keep going, keep going. Because you still got to spend money, you still got to figure it out. Which, granted, at my peak, I was doing wholesale, so yeah, volumes change, but I'm still placing POs super frequently, stuff like that.
Right.
One thing I am doing that I think is exciting for those of you who have been with us for almost a decade. We used to have something called the 7-Figure Blueprint. And this was a ebook we put together. It was totally free, but we wanted to take some of the more higher level concepts for wholesale that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of times when you're in these courses and stuff like that, it's how to source, how to open accounts and stuff like that, but they don't really get into things like cash flow management, those optimizations. They don't really get into utilizing and optimizing net terms to get more cash flow availability. And so I just rewrote it. I wrote that way back in college. The grammar is horrendous. I will be the first one to tell you. And so I'm rewriting it and respinning it to make the concepts a little bit more clear to understand. So right now I'm calling it the SCALE method. SCALE is an acronym. So I'm excited to relaunch that. It's going to be completely free for everyone. That's going to be really fun to kind of get back into. I have to redesign everything because that's back in the VinDrive CRM days. So all the branding was VinDrive CRM. Now it's going to be obviously Aura. So it's going to be super fun. And for those of you joining right now, this is open office hours, meaning there is no format here. We are here to answer your questions. They could be as specific or as broad as you would like them to be, but we are here to geek out with you fundamentally. So if you have any burning questions, throw them in there. Yep, Luke's already jumping in there. Love it. See, Luke, new seller, new Aura user. I have a couple of ASINs that keep getting a high pricing error. Repricing seems to be taking my price point from a couple of dollars above the buy box and shoots it up like $15 above, and then Amazon deactivates. Is there a workaround? So there is. And a little caveat here, we can't really know if and when Amazon is not going to like a high price. For example, if you go to our Twitter profile, we reposted something that Nikki posted on Twitter. Let me pull this up because he made a post. It was like or just did something that I can't believe. And so I messaged him. I was like, hey, what happened? He's like, I'm not going to say, yeah, I need to get to my computer and verify. Turns out, let's see if I can find this. Hold on. Where's it? Okay. I'm just going to share my screen here because this is actually insane. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up. The reason why I'm bringing this up is sometimes you want that to happen, and it works really freaking well. So already confirmed. Just look at this. First sale 5 days ago at $65.99. Sale I got 5 hours ago, $163.18. What? By the way, if you're on the Essential, which is $97 a month, this one sale almost would have covered your entire monthly cost of Aura. 147% increase in price. That's insane, right? So I bring that up. It's very timely, which is wonderful, because sometimes you want to do that and sometimes you can do that. Now, when Amazon's having some problems with that, what we tend to recommend, in case you correct me if I'm wrong here, is go look at the price we took you to, where that occurred, where the potential high pricing error happened, and lower that, what do you think, like 10%, reactivate it and see if that continues or not. And basically, if it does continue to lower that until it no longer creates a problem. So basically, especially if you're using Maven, which is most likely the case, Maven will dynamically calculate the maxes for you. You can override those. So if you go to that listing, see where, it's saying auto max, click in to edit, change that to the value you want to go to, hit save, and then that's what we're going to use as the default max moving forward.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I would recommend there, Luke. So that's the most likely scenario. If it's being deactivated for the fair pricing policy, that's likely what happened. If it is a high pricing error and it's getting deactivated for that, that's typically tied to min and max prices being set in Amazon, or Seller Central, if you will. So Aura's blind to min and max is set in other platforms. So if that continues to happen, what's likely occurring is either you or Amazon in the background setting those mins and maxes. You can manage your preferences on the manage all inventory page to make sure that min and max prices are visible as a field, and then just confirm that you either have those removed or have them lined up with the figures you have set in Aura as your min and max price. The default setting for any listings that may not have fulfillable units is to price you to your max price, treating it as out of stock. So that's the other potential scenario going on here. Definitely feel free to reach out via chat. Finn's running chat right now. He'll be happy to take a look at that specific listing and let you know what may be going on there. But typically go Dylan's route of lowering that max price by about 10% if it's a fair pricing policy issue. If it is a high pricing error, that's more than likely tied to min to max prices at Amazon that Aura can't read. So one of those two scenarios is probably what's going on there.
Nice. So Casey, I've been boom, awesome. Love that. Great. Yasmani, is there a way to eliminate inactive listings? Casey, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so right now, just for data tracking purposes and the way we gather information from Amazon's API, we actually can't delete inactive listings. That has been requested by other users, the ability to delete specific listings. So you can go to feedback.goaura.com and just upvote that. You can type in delete listings. That should be a request there. I'm sure there's at least a handful of votes there. So you can definitely upvote that. But in the meantime, inactive listings are by default hidden from your general listings view. It's going to default to those active listings. So you just want to make sure you're working with the active version of whatever listing you're looking at there.
Awesome. See, Jonathan Rogers. Hey guys, thanks for your time. I'm new to Aura and I've not been a seller for too long. I'm selling books right now, mostly used. I keep getting a handful of listings with a suppressed buy box. What exactly does that mean? Also, how do I fix it? I've had Aura for about 2 weeks now and haven't gotten any sales since incorporating Aura yet. Okay, so you're gonna hit a few roadblocks here, Jonathan. Most repricing software, if not all, it's basically all, may struggle repricing used books, used media entirely. The reason for that is what we get via the API is what's called the top 20 offers. I don't know why they call it the top, because it's technically the lowest 20 offers based on price. So, a lot of these used media listings, you can have 100+ competitors. And with the prices on used being driven so far down, a lot of times we can't see everything that we need to actively reprice. So this is a common thing you will run into. In regards to what a suppressed buy box is, here's exactly what that means. Whenever you go to Amazon and you see that one-click purchase, we call that the buy box. That's where roughly 82% of organic sales happen. Super important. You want to be there, especially on new items. Now, what's interesting is if Amazon considers the price to be too high across the board on that listing, they will suppress the buy box. And what that means is they will remove the one-click purchase. That component is no longer on the page. And now in order for people to purchase from you, they have to click view all offers and then go through and pick one. What happens is the sales volume basically drops off because there's now too much friction to purchase. Somebody lands on the page, they don't understand. I can click view all offers, go find somebody else. They just see there's no buy box and I'm used to clicking that one button and it's not there. I'm going to go somewhere else. So your sales kind of fall off very fast. How you reactivate a suppressed buy box, unfortunately, is lowering your price. A lot of times you can actually lower your price, reactivate the buy box, and then raise it back up a bit on top of that. So just because you reactivated at $25 doesn't mean you have to stay there and that's the limit. You might be able to raise it up to $26, $27 in some cases. So it really is listing dependent. It really just depends. But hopefully that gives you a little bit more clarity into suppressed buy boxes and all that fun stuff. See, Yasmini, how frequently is the age of inventory updated on Aura? It kind of depends, really. I think for that specific service, I think it's roughly every 15 minutes, give or take. I think that's right. I think it's give or take 15 minutes. We're able to get that. It's also like there's two things that have to occur. It has to be updated. The data has to be updated in the API, and we have to pull it. So we pull at a frequent rate, but Amazon could be delayed in updating the data itself. So that could occur. One thing I have learned working in the software space here with Amazon and with Walmart, all the platforms are very similar, funny enough, is they are not the fastest to update their data models, which is kind of crazy. So it's like, I see it in Seller Central, it's updated, but we look at the API and what they're telling us and it's not updated yet, could be an hour, really depends. So it's give or take those two things roughly. Great question, by the way. I love that one.
Yeah, and one tip there, Yasmani, due to that frequency of data pull, like Dylan mentioned, we are pulling that data about every 15 minutes, give or take. And we do rely on Amazon's data being accurate in order to kind of make the changes necessary. That includes both pricing changes and changes to strategies in regards to that age of inventory workflow. But since that's the case, we recommend having your age of inventory workflow run once every hour. That's as frequently as workflows can run right now. That will make sure that as soon as Amazon does update that age of inventory on their end, then Aura can respond in the quickest way possible on that every hour mark with that workflow. So we do recommend that 1 hour trigger on the age of inventory workflows there.
Yeah, exactly. Great question so far. So one thing I've been experimenting a lot, obviously with AI, all kinds of stuff. And I've been writing a lot more of like the things I'm doing. It kind of helps me clarify what I'm doing, because my mind is a complete chaos trash can. One thing that's been really interesting to me is like task managers, right? I've been a big getting things done. So GTD by David Allen, I've been a big proponent of his philosophy there. But with AI, everything kind of changes. And so I've been experimenting with, and I'm going to do a blog post on this probably later this week on my personal blog, but the thing I've been doing for the past 2 weeks that has actually been super helpful is I'm using notes, right? So Raycast notes, Apple Notes, doesn't matter. I'm just writing bullet points throughout the day of like new tasks that come to me, right? And then what I do, funny enough, is I take it to Claude. I have that Claude project. We talked about Claude projects last week. I have like my leverage coach. It's got a bunch of cool like knowledge in there that it utilizes, and I have a specific prompt I use. And what I do is I dump every task on that list into that with the prompt at the beginning, basically saying like, hey, I have ADD. I want to be more productive. Help me, strategize my day, given everything that I'm giving you, and hold me accountable and help me like kind of work through these things and make recommendations as to different forms of leverage I could use for each of these things. And I will also dump my calendar events. So I use Raycast. I can just say, hey, show me all my calendar events for today, throw those in there as well. Hit enter, and it will lay out my day. And as I'm making progress on tasks, it'll be like, oh, cool, you completed that. Great. I'll mark that as complete in my next interaction with you. So it's also tracking how I'm doing. Or, let's say I'm struggling with something. I might be like, I'm really struggling to like start working on this thing. Well, because it's not a task manager like Todoist or Things 3, it has its own knowledge. So it'll just be like, cool, have you thought about it from this perspective? Or maybe, maybe that's kind of a bigger project in reality. Let's break this down into sub steps. And I'm like, holy crap. So I've been loving this kind of concept. So I'm kind of using Claude as a task manager, funny enough. So much so that I jumped into something. I jumped into V0. There's this whole concept called vibe, fill in the blank, right? Vibe marketing, vibe coding, vibe designing. I have already taken and claimed vibe sourcing because I'm telling you it's going to come one day. But basically this whole concept of vibe, fill in the blank is like you're just chatting with a large language model that helps you do the outcome versus doing it yourself. And so I had this random idea. I was like, what I would really love is to do this thing that I'm doing in one software. So instead of me having to jump between Claude, my notes, my calendar, all that stuff, what if I just created that? So I designed it using V0 by Vercel, which is like a design kind of agent. And Casey, I'm not sure if you ever watched Westworld, the series. Did you watch that?
I never watched it. I had friends who watched it. I tend to be more of a movies guy myself, as some of those folks watching may know. My list of TV shows continues to grow, and I'm like peripherally aware of Westworld and the things that happen there, but not directly there.
So Westworld's UI for their hardware, for their software was, I think, really cool. So what I did is I designed this out and said, hey, I want this to be like Westworld designed, right? So this took me like, I don't know, 45 minutes the other night, just kind of messing around. And this is what I ended up coming out with. So it's got the Delos kind of thing, right? And so this is basically what I'm doing. I'm chatting with Claude, and then I have my notes over here. So the idea is I would add, whatever to the thing, and then it would extract the task. So at the end of the day, I'd be like, yeah, I need to add this to my thing. It would extract it. And then I've got tasks over here. I've got projects, which would connect to the task actually, which is pretty cool. And the whole idea is like, I would not actually be clicking these things. I would just be chatting and just be like, oh, I did that thing. I'd be like, okay, cool. That's completed. Mark it as complete. Right. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm also pulling in things like my tasks from Linear and my calendar events from Google. So why not just have these be some nice little integrations, and I can jump in here and say, it's a new day. Let's get started and be super productive. What do I need to work on right now? Hit, and it obviously doesn't work because it's just a design, but then it would be like, all right, here's those things, and like help me structure it and all these different things. I show this because I want people to understand, like, having this philosophy of like AI first stuff is helping regular people like us who are not designers, who are not engineers, be like, oh, this would be a cool idea, and just go play with it. Just go kind of figure it out and just have a place to start. And sellers need to be doing more of this. I talked with a pretty well-known seller in our space. What was it, last Friday actually? And he was like, hey, can you show me AI? I was like, sure. How long you got? I think it was like a 3-hour conversation. But now he's like, I'm telling everybody that I know who runs a company, you need to focus on this, because now he's starting to understand from what I showed him what is actually possible. And all these little, I have a few different experiments I'm running right now that I'm just sharing with him. Like, hey, I just built this and it works. And he's like, holy crap, like that's a problem I have. And I have a VA doing that right now. You're telling me it would be completely automated? Yes. And completely in your control, all these different things. So this stuff's here. You know what I mean? It's so, I feel like a kid in a candy store. The thing that comes to mind when I used to play World of Warcraft in high school. Yes, I'm that dork. I used to make fun of people who played WoW because I played RuneScape. I was like, that's way cooler. Wasn't. And I got sick one week and took the week off from school. I was like, I'll just play it. Got hooked. It was horrible addiction. But the point is, I would wake up in the morning excited to like jump back in. Right. Because there's like new things to do, or like, I'm selling things on I learned economics from World of Warcraft. Like that's what started my entrepreneurial journey, because I would flip things. I was doing OA, by the way, in World of Warcraft, like straight up. That's what it was, which is so crazy. That's why it clicked in my brain so early. I was like, RA, OA. Yeah, it makes sense. But I would get excited, and it's, this kind of stuff gets you excited because you're like, man, what else can I do? Like what else is new? And like, what else can I hack on and have fun with? And I think if people were to play with this stuff more, and I'm starting to, write more Twitter posts, basically describing like, listen, here's how you get started with AI. Like, it's not find AI or discover an AI and then see if it solves one of your problems. And you start with the problem that you're having, you clarify what the problem is, the steps and all these things, and then you go find an AI-based solution that can do that for you. But it is nice to see a lot more sellers starting to talk about this. Some big name sellers are starting to talk about ChatGPT, talk about just AI, and generally speaking, they're starting to wrap their heads around it. Be like, what if it could do this? What if it could do this other thing? And they're starting to hone where AI is currently at, what is actually possible, and what's 80% of the way there, but will be here in three to 6 months. Those are the types of exponential sellers that I've been talking about. When I talk about this concept of exponential sellers, this is it. They're experimenting. They're solving a lot of their problems that are solvable today, but also realizing the current limitations and how fast those limitations are falling like dominoes. And those are the sellers that have a very unique advantage against those who are not experimenting right now. And it doesn't mean you have to be a software engineer. It doesn't mean you have to be highly technical. You just need to play with this stuff. And honestly, it's just freaking cool, to be frank. It's just the most exciting thing of all time. So it's good stuff. But I want to share that with you guys because I'm running a lot of these experiments right now. Just trying to even wrap my own head around like what is possible right now. Like what does task management look like in an AI first driven world? And even if a software doesn't exist, fine, just use the LLM. Like I have no software right now. I'm just literally notes, Claude projects, and like it's working incredibly well. So the team took off Monday. I've had a bunch of personal chores that I've needed to get done. Had to go to the DMV, all this other stuff. Took my running list, dumped it in Claude, and said, all right, I got the day off. We need to make this happen. He goes, okay, cool. Well, hey, you got to go to the DMV. That's probably going to, set you back 2 hours. Well, while you're waiting, let's work on some other stuff in between. And so I'm like, yeah, honestly, I would have just sat there and scrolled Twitter the whole time. But now I'm on my phone actually like completing tasks and be like, oh yeah, I can log in here, handle that real quick. I don't need to do that later. I can do it right now. And so it's like helping me recover a lot of like wasted time, what a lot of people call like dead time, and just uber more productive. It is absolutely insane. So even as simple as that, you can, 2-3x your productivity by just chatting with a large language model. Nuts.
Yeah, and I think we talked about just how AI is really lowering the barrier to entry in a lot of different areas. Obviously,
Right.
Cost is the main thing. Access to information is another thing, and oftentimes. And we've talked about how the first, for lack of a better term, like employees that it will replace will be VAs, because as long as you give it enough information and context, it essentially turns into a VA. Like in your specific example, it's essentially a personal assistant. It has access to your calendar events. You've given it a list of your tasks or things that need to be done by a certain date. And you're just like, hey, what's my day look like? And it just helps organize it for you. So, I mean, that just like adds to the running list of different areas or functions that you can really leverage it for, to just either make yourself more efficient, to make yourself more skilled at something, to learn a new skill. I think it's really helpful for an area where you really have no expertise to just dive in blind and say like, hey, teach me the 5 most important things about blank. And it just gets you started much more quickly. So yeah, it's really fascinating. I've started to try and weed it into a couple different areas, mostly just fantasy sports right now. So nothing super applicable to everybody here. If I have any big baseball fans, I can send you my findings, but starting to kind of bleed it in, different meal plans, workout plans. I've started to do kind of some stuff there. And yeah, it's really interesting. I know we've talked about using it for listing optimization as folks start to use, ChatGPT or similar AI models as like search engines. So it's only going to continue to get more intelligent and applicable as it continues to evolve. And it's just evolving so rapidly now. It's tough to keep up.
The past week, using OpenAI's new O3 model, I have had moments where I've been like, holy crap, it can do that now. Nobody told me this. And it's perfect. It is actually insane. Like the hallucination kind of stuff where like kind of goes off the rails and it's like making stuff up. It's practically gone. So I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. It's happening right now. I have Granola, which I use to help me with, taking meeting notes and stuff like that. It's recording this entire conversation. I'm then going to take the entire transcript of this conversation. I'm going to throw it to an AI workflow, and I'll probably get 15 well-formatted, well-thought-out Twitter posts added to Buffer in draft mode for me to review. Be like, that's actually pretty genius. Post it. And that came from talking with that founder last week and, talking through his problems and what he does and stuff like that. And I was like, actually, it makes a lot of sense that you record a lot of videos, but you kind of struggle to write content, but you already have the content. It's just in a different format. So what if we just took that same format, dump the transcript, and then use that to write your blog post, your Twitter post, your LinkedIn post, whatever. And I was like, let me just see if that's possible. So I took this weekend, built it, and I'm like, yep. And now I'm just going to keep using it because it's awesome. I think I've scheduled like 70 plus Twitter posts in like a day. And this will add another 15. And I'm doing like 3 posts a day. And and not all of it's perfect. Some of it, I'm like, I kind of get where you're getting. I might tweak it here and there. Some, I'm like, dude, I could not have said it better, but it came from me. It's something I said, but it clarified the concept and then like wrote it in a well-formatted way. I'm like, yeah, add that to my queue. That's fantastic. So, even if you're not doing content creation, it doesn't matter. Like that's just one example of like somebody struggling with something that they want to do more of, that they struggle to do. And now we can basically just automate it and say, just keep doing the things you're usually doing, recording the videos, whatever, just let's add this workflow to it. And now it just kind of did that for you. Absolutely bonkers. And then of course I used Claude I brain dumped everything I was doing, the whole process, and said, hey, I need a personal blog post written that describes this. That took 10 minutes. So now it's published on my blog. So I built the workflow, have a blog post that explains the workflow, the problem, the solution, everything, links out to everything. And I got some cool images in there to clarify it visually. Took 45 minutes in total for all that. That's ridiculous. I'm not that smart. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy cool. So it's fun times right now. And like you were saying, it's really only getting better. I've been catching up on the recent, Black Mirror series. And everybody was complaining because they're like, well, old school Black Mirror, was looking at the future. It feels like this current season is just looking at the present. And I thought about that. I was like, that's true, because they have this one episode where they're taking pictures and the person can like walk through the pictures. That afternoon on Twitter, I saw a demo. They take a picture, put on VR goggles. There it is in 3D, the whole picture. Now you can walk through it. So it's like literally already exists. I think that's kind of cool because now you can see things. Granted, Black Mirror is a very negative take on technology. That's their whole shtick, is like, let's see how this could go bad. But if you take away how it played out and just look at the technology, you're like, actually, this, if you use that for good, that'd be incredible. And so I'm almost using Black Mirror, but flipped to a more optimistic, positive way to be like, could I do that? Like, that sounds great, So it's been pretty fun. Let's see, Angel here. Aura plus Chat GPT connection. Is this possible to do to help increase sales and see where there is room for improvements? I don't know the answer. My go-to take on this is probably not, because it's going to need a lot of context. One interesting experiment would be to take a screenshot of all your settings in your strategy, dump it to ChatGPT and say, hey, I built this repricing strategy to accomplish X goal. It's going to be really clear. It's got to understand what you're trying to accomplish and be like, is there any red flags that would make that not true? And it might be like, actually, this one setting might hold you back a little bit. Okay. I don't know. This is the fun part. We don't know. We're experimenting. So there's some fun stuff. I'm a big fan of Raycast, which is like an app launcher. They have extensions and stuff like that. I really want us to build a Aura Raycast extension as an AI extension, specifically because you could do, at Aura tab. Now you're using natural language. You can say, change the strategy on this ASIN or on this SKU to my Maven strategy. And it would be able to parse through everything and be like, okay, that's done. That is possible. Definitely possible. We just have to build it. So yeah, it's nuts. Like, it's so cool. See, Ken, this is a great question. My account is connected to IL and updates COGS from that. Is there a way to lock my COGS on Aura for a specific ASIN so that it stops reverting back to the COGS from IL? Casey, I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, so right now, Ken, that sync with IL occurs every 24 hours. And that sync will override any manually entered or edited costs within Aura. Unfortunately, there's no way to lock an edited cost right now. I would definitely recommend entering that as a feature request potentially for some of our integrations, so that we know that the most likely inconsistency between IL and Aura right now is probably your shipping costs. But what some folks will do, Ken, is they'll create a range of their typical shipping costs, leaning towards the higher end of that range to find one solid figure for generally their overall shipping costs. And they will add that figure to all of their listings, or add that to the cost field of all of their listings, just so that they can take into account that shipping cost, protect their margins as well. A lot of folks will do that after IL has synced those costs. The other way you can do that is with bulk uploads. There's an uploads, help article that has a video to kind of walk you through that process. But as of right now, that daily sync, will override those manually edited costs. So you'll want to either stick with that, in which case you can up your min and max ROI percentage in your strategy to account for that discrepancy, or you can disconnect the integration and add those shipping costs.
Yeah. Right now it's basically all or nothing. Just as context there. Keep the questions coming too, because these are some really solid questions today. Appreciate it, guys. And heads up, we are going to be, our team will be at the Miami Seller Conference at the end of this month. So next week, gosh, is it already next week? Yeah. I think we're going down on the 30th. So we'll be there for the Miami Seller Conference, and then we will be at Proven Conference in Orlando. It's the last weekend of May. So we're kind of bookending May there with two conferences. So if you're going to be there, come hang out with us. We will have t-shirts for Aura to hand out. We want to talk with you. We want to hear your feedback. We want to, hang out and geek out with you guys. So definitely come find us if we're there. We'll be there. Trust me, you'll see us. We're definitely not the quietest ones there.
And Dylan, I'm not sure the timing of your flights for Wednesday next week. Will we have office hours next week for folks?
We actually may not. That's a great question there. Actually, we will not have office hours next week as a heads up. Yeah.
Okay, I'll send out communications to everyone as well as a reminder that we will not be having office hours next week. But yeah, if you are at the conference, definitely go say hi to Dylan and Finn. They'll be there. I'll be holding down the fort here in Boston. But yeah, go chat with them in person. And if you do have any questions, whether it's Aura specific or just reselling theory, if you will, they love to get deep into the weeds, and we'll definitely be able to help point you in the right direction there.
I will say, the team at Proven Conference gave me a breakout session, and they're like, "Can you talk AI?" I was like, "Yeah." So I will be doing a breakout session. I think they're like 30 minutes long, specifically on AI. So a lot of stuff I will be able to dive deeper into, show off a lot more for that session. So if you are going to be at the Proven Conference, come hang out with me during that. It'd be nice to have a packed house and geek out with you guys. We did send out an email to all of our users. You're basically able to go to the Proven Conference for free. If you mention Aura, if you go to Proven Conference, I think it's theprovenconference.com, there's a scholarship section. Click on that, mention Aura. You should be able to go for free, actually. Obviously, you got to pay for your flights if you're not local, but you should do that, because last year, it was packed. It was like 800 something people. Actually, I take that back. It might've been like 600 or 700 people. It was a lot either way. Very high energy, a lot of amazing content being talked about. If you're not going to conferences, I highly recommend that you go to at least one big one. You're going to leave so energized, and with so many new ideas and so many new connections, it's going to justify the cost very, very easily. So highly recommend you guys to do that. Yeah, it's funny, Casey. Like right now, I'm basically trying to find AI versions of everything or just build it myself. I'm very much more hooked than I have been, which is saying a lot right now. It's actually insane.
Well, and I feel like there's been a lot of updates recently, which has probably regarnered that interest and desire to kind of digging deeper and learn more. But
1000%. Let's see. Kinj, Aura seems to be a little FBA heavy as a repricer. Any tips for optimizing FBM listings? How to input shipping costs? How to win more buy box? Anything else? I would say the only thing that makes us possibly more FBA heavy is that we're not factoring in like the merchant fulfilled shipping costs. There is a workaround for that, which Casey mentioned. You can basically add that to your buy cost. That is something we are looking at, is adding like an additional cost field. We haven't gotten around to it yet, but that is something we are looking at. In terms of winning more buy box, it's going to change throughout the year, which is kind of frustrating. So like in off season, which is what we're currently in, FBA is going to take the lion's share of the buy box percentage, unless you're still basically able to do like SPF, SFP, sorry, seller fulfilled prime. You're going to have to be like 1 to 2 percentage points lower in price against FBA sellers to pull the buy box there. Now, as we get closer to Q4, that's going to start to shift a little bit, because Amazon's going to say, hey, we still want to, maximize our demand here, but our fulfillment centers cannot process fast enough. So that's the time when you kind of lean more so into merchant fulfilled. If you're doing like RA, OA kind of stuff, that's when it's going to make a little bit more sense. And you're going to see the buy box dynamics shift a little bit. This has not always been true, but it was certainly true last year. And we can see Amazon really tightening up the fulfillment center stuff, right? So there's a lot of the new policies that have gone into effect, especially regarding like how much inventory they hold per ASIN, and not just looking at your specific account, but looking at every seller on that listing. They're really trying to hone that in. And my understanding of it is the outcome that they're trying to drive towards is far less storage being utilized in FBA fulfillment centers, and they want them to be fulfillment centers, meaning they are moving inventory fast. They don't want to be storage facilities anymore. I think they've leaned on that quite heavily in the past, and they're really trying to get away from that. I don't know why. I imagine it's some kind of cost situation that they're trying to optimize for profitability. But we're seeing a lot more policies go into effect that drive that. So we could see merchant fulfilled get a slight boost on top of it. We'll have to see. I don't think that's going to be true year round, because Amazon's trying to find that balance between like FBA is going to give that 2-day free shipping super fast. Like they have controls over, everything. So they should have less complaints essentially than merchant fulfilled offers where you're handling the processing and all that stuff. But certainly during Q4, when they kind of have to rely on merchant fulfilled orders, they're going to do that. So we'll see how it plays out. See, Angel, is there an option to download strategies and workflows as a report? Casey, I'll let you handle that one.
Yeah, and Angel, I guess just a follow-up question for you. Feel free to comment again. I guess what sort of data or information would you be looking for in that report? To answer just the initial question at a base level, we don't currently have a report for workflows, but if you do go to the Uploads tab, hit New, and download the pre-filled template, that will populate with all of your listings, your costs, mins and maxes, pretty much all of your listing data. But if you scroll to the right side of that spreadsheet, there will be a column labeled Strategy ID. You can then match up those IDs with the IDs of your specific strategies, and that essentially will tell you what strategy is assigned to each of those listings. That's kind of the quickest way to look at that in a report format. If you are just managing things within your Aura account, you can go to the listings page and use the strategy filters just to see which listings are assigned to what strategies. And I see you followed up just the fields we entered, filled in with the options. So in that case, I recommend either using the filters on the listings page. That pre-filled template will also show you which listings are assigned to what strategies, but there's no sort of data or report on either the listings page or reports for workflows. So you'll just kind of have to keep track of those on the specific workflows tab and understand, hey, this is when a strategy switch could occur, or this is when repricing may be paused, for example, and kind of manage that separately.
Yep. One thing I'm thinking about with these conferences, Casey, is I'm going to be taking this guy. So like what Granola is doing on my computer right now, this guy basically does the same thing. So I'm going to be wearing this at these conferences and recording things. Obviously nothing that is private, but using this because I'm going to lose my voice night one. I can already tell you, happens every time. Just because we're talking so much, but we're diving into so many great things, so many cool concepts and awesome ideas, and I can take those and turn them into amazing content. That's insane. So I will be experimenting even at the conferences, and come talk to me about AI stuff, because I will talk your head off, certainly. And if you are going to the Miami Seller Conference or the Proven Conference or the Sellers United Conference in October, please let us know in the comments. We want to make sure that we find you and can geek out with you and at least say hello and give you a t-shirt. And if you're not, tell us why you're not going. I feel like some people are anti-conferences. I certainly, when I was a seller, did no conferences, mainly just because time and cost. Being in college full time, running the business full time, I could not take the time to go do them. But I kind of regret that now. Now having gone to so many, at least from the software perspective, I'm like, man, there's so much value here. It's actually insane, and most of them are not that expensive. Some are definitely more premium. Some are $300 for like 3 days plus your expenses for travel and hotel. It's not bad. Not bad at all. Oh, nice. Luke will be at Proven. Awesome. Luke, if you're interested, come to my breakout session on AI. It's going to be fun. I'm trying to get as many people there as possible. So people are like, why is everybody so obsessed with AI? Why is this breakout session packed? That way they can invite me again next year and be like, can you do that again, but for an hour? That's what I'm driving towards here.
You're working like the stand-up comedy circuit. You first got to earn your 15 minutes, then your 30 minutes, then your 60 minutes. Yeah.
That's it. I did my first, speaking engagement at a conference. When as a vendor, I've definitely spoken at conferences, but as an individual, now it's like, hey, Dylan of Aura is going to come talk about some stuff. And I made sure after I was like, hey, I know you guys don't let vendors speak. You allowed me to speak. Was that up to par? Did that provide enough value? Was it good enough for you guys? And like, yeah, dude, we want you to do it again next year. I'm like, perfect. Makes me very, very happy. Let's see. Love Aura. Nothing better than looking at sales today and seeing an item sell at one price, then later sell at $7 more using Maven. Exactly. And this is, the tweet I showed earlier in this conversation with Nikki on Twitter, showing a 149% increase in the sale over 5 days. I mean, he made an extra $91, or he took the net profit per unit to $91. That's insane. I mean, we basically raised his price by $100 and he got a sale. So when I love jumping into these like live webinar trainings with different private groups, Discord groups, stuff like that. And they're like, what's the friction in getting started? I was like, honestly, kind of nothing, right? Like, it's a 14-day free trial. We don't ask you for a credit card. We're going to give you an onboarding session. We're going to make sure you get a full 14 days of actually using it. And most likely 9.9 times out of 10, you're going to make more during the 2 weeks you have a trial than what it would have cost you to pay for the full month. That's insane to me. And so, like, if you're like, I'm kind of on the fence, I think I want to try a repricer, I'm not sure, there's no friction whatsoever. And I love that we've designed it that way, because it's such an easy sell. I don't have to be like, hey, I have to convince you to give me a credit card today and promise that you'll do well in the future. It's like, no, let's flip that. Let's make you do well today and you pay me in the future. Like, just have it pay it for itself. You know what I mean? It's such a great way to approach it. And listen, I've been a seller. I've used software where that was not the case, and it was really annoying because you feel like you have to commit to something you haven't even tried, which that alone is a big deal breaker for me and for a lot of people. Like, I hate when I'm like, oh, this seems cool. I'm like, let me start a trial and kind of play with this. And it's like, give me a credit card. You're still get a free trial, but give me the credit card. I'm just like, I'm good. It's not that cool. It went from really interesting and cool to I'm not going to try it now. And so I like that we've, as an industry, mainly adopted that. There are some software that require, it's called a gated trial. So they do require a credit card when you're starting your trial. I have talked to a few of those founders and have been like, please stop. Don't do that. And they removed it and they're doing better. I'm like, yep, makes sense. There's definitely pros and cons to both, but I feel like in our industry, it's a very, go try it, test it out, see if it's a good fit. And if so, keep on. If not, move on, so it's been kind of nice. But LaWayne, happy to hear you're getting sales above the buy box. That always makes me happy. See, Luke, we'll do new to AI, but loving it so far. I'm curious, Luke, what are you experimenting with in AI so far? I would love to kind of get your thoughts and what you're experimenting with so far. I might have some good recommendations for you. I like when I'm talking with somebody about AI and they're like, I just wish I could do this. That would be just so insane. And I'm like, here's an app. Does it now. You don't have to set it up. Like, wait, seriously? Like, I thought it was like 2 years away. I'm like, no, dude, this got launched like 3 months ago. This is actually old now, In the world of AI, 3 months is a decade.
Right. Well, and I feel like one thing that, like, there's so many tools that work well, and AI is one of them. There is still an initial wave of preliminary work that needs to be done to get it to a point to function the way you want. And I feel like you're one of the very few people who have already done that legwork way before. So as new things come out and it's able to do more, you're able to kind of plug into your pre-done work already. But that's the case with everything. I mean, even with Aura, folks just want to get in and start repricing immediately, which is great to see. We're excited to get you repricing as well. But there is still a little bit just set up, make sure your mins and maxes are in the right place, make sure your strategy is set up properly. But once you do that initial legwork, it's essentially going to be self-optimized probably to like 85% of the
Right.
amount of work between, age of inventory workflows and the automatic strategy assignments. But you do just have to do that little bit of legwork up
There's some
front to get
setup.
there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is nice to have you as like that pulse check on AI, knowing that I don't have to do all that initial legwork. You can just come to me with your findings, and I don't have to do it do the
I'm the
guinea
guinea
pig
pig.
testing myself. Yeah, exactly.
1000%. It's funny when people are like, what are your hobbies? I'm like, AI. I was like, I know that sounds weird, but like I play with this like a hobby because it's fun. I see Luke just responded. So how he's currently using AI. So mostly SOPs for my construction company. I love that. I think that's a great use case here, right? AI is very good where you could literally use your voice, turn on the voice mode, brain dump the whole process and be like, hey, I need you to clarify this, tidy it up, find redundancies, whatever. And it will do that pretty well one shot. So happy to see that you're using it for SOPs. And actually a fun side project, helping my son make a faceless AI YouTube channel for kids. Okay. I need more, Luke. This is cool. I have been seeing a lot more people talking about like using AI for faceless YouTube videos, TikTok and stuff like that. It seems like there's a lot of different ways to go about that. I'm seeing a lot of people do that for marketing their brands. I think it makes a lot of sense. There's AI avatars. I have yet to see one that's really like it really sells me where like I can't tell that it's AI. Most of the time, if I look at the mouth enough, I can tell that it's AI. Voice is pretty much solved at this point. Like, I mean, it's crazy. I think I mentioned I have an app on my phone that's an AI receptionist. I will have people text me after they call me and be like, hey, dude, did you get an assistant, like a receptionist? I was like, no. Well, who do I talk to? Oh, it's an app actually. They're like, what do you mean? It had a whole conversation with me and was empathetic. It's like, yeah, it's just where AI is at, man. But if I put a video in front of it, like a Zoom call or something like this, you'd be able to tell pretty easily at this point. But that's really cool, Luke, that you're doing that. See, this is what's fun, right? Like you can experiment with this stuff and it enables somebody who might not have who had a great idea, but wouldn't execute on it because there's just too much friction, just too much to figure out, too many hurdles. And now those things are falling like dominoes. And now that person could be like, I can at least get started or figure out how to get started. And now you went from, I wouldn't have done it and it was a cool idea I was excited about to now I can get started and start to mess with this and figure it out. Even if you only get 80% of the way there, that's still better than doing nothing. That's what's super exciting about AI right now. So I love that. It is really funny to hear like faceless AI YouTube for kids because it's such like an adult thing that I'm used to. Where like there's so many that I watch on like different like mini documentaries or whatever, and it's obviously like an AI voice because I know the voices from 11 Labs. I'm like, oh, that's the British one. Yep, know that one. But it makes sense for kids. Like that's so smart. See, what we need to do is we need to start using ChatGPT to write like kids stories. Use some other AI to do the animations, right? It's going to write the script. We'll create the voice. Those parts are relatively easy. And then we just need the animations and then boom, 10K a month, right? Luke, your kid's about to be incredibly wealthy and I'm jealous. My parents made me build roofs on the summer. Like how much am I making? Nothing. So forced child labor. Gotcha. Yes, that's perfect. It's like short stories animated. Yeah. Luke, your kid's about to be crushing it. It's about to be the wealthiest kid at his school. It's insane. See, this is what's fun about it, right? It's like never ending ideas and just creativity. It's really fun. Yeah, I mean, I just had something pop up on my Twitter. Fireflies.ai, which kind of competes with Granola. It very common. It joins the actual Zoom call and records and stuff. It's kind of little odd having this third thing in the Zoom call. I don't like that Granola doesn't do that, but they just launched 200 plus agentic AI apps built for every team and department. I don't even know what that means, but it sounds awesome, right? Like there's going to be some fun automation up in there that previously was not possible that now probably is. And it's probably things like, hey, whenever we have this kind of conversation, write up, summarize the entire event in this way, create exact next actions for every person that was there, and then Slack it to each person who was in that meeting or email it to every person in that meeting 15 minutes after it's completed. again, these little tiny things that start to fall away pretty fast. So we got about 10 minutes here. I want to make sure this is super high value for you guys. If there's any other questions or rabbit holes we can dive into, I want to make sure we can do that. And again, we will not have office hours next week because the team will be in Miami for the conference. Got me wanting to start a faceless YouTube channel now. It's kind of smart.
Yeah, I thought about doing one for like movie reviews a while ago.
Dude, you should totally do that.
Yeah.
You should totally do that.
Been on a good stretch of seeing some new movies in theaters. If anyone has any recommendations, always come in. Let's see. Greg,
Dylan Casey, nice office hours set up. Going to try granola. Are you able to let James know that Greg from Pump is trying to get in touch with him? He ran an estimate on our website to save on your AWS bill. Thanks. Appreciate the hustle, Greg. I dig it. I will let him know. See, Jim, hello. I'm the guy in the back with the canonical hat that says dunce. This is why we use AI, Jim, because it makes us feel less like dunces. At least for me, I can only speak from my personal experience, but it very much feels that way. Where there's times where I'm like, I feel like an idiot, but I kind of have this idea. I don't know how to put it into words, and I will brain dump it to a large language model and be like, here's exactly what you meant. I'm like, oh, yeah. Thought I was kind of stupid, but when you rephrase it to me in a clear way, I'm kind of smart. See, can I control all my pricing in Aura? Jim, can you clarify exactly what you mean by that question? Because I think I know where you're going with this, but I'm not sure. See, I'm getting 100 to 200 pricing issues daily. Can you clarify? I'm asking a lot of questions here. Can you clarify what kind of pricing issues? Are you getting potential high pricing errors? Is that specifically what you're getting? Because we'll give you a recommendation on how to avoid those moving forward. High pricing errors, man, bane of my existence, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
There is no, it's like, was it Ben Franklin that said like the only three things you can never avoid? It's like, taxes, whatever. I forget the exact quote now.
It's like death, taxes, and
yeah, death, taxes, and potential high pricing errors. See, no, most of them have been low pricing errors. Interesting. Okay, so what is most likely happening here, Jim, is you might have mins and maxes set in Seller Central. Keep in mind, the mins and maxes in Seller Central, Aura does not see. So it's not going to factor those in. If that is the case, try to remove them. In a lot of cases, Amazon won't let you actually delete the mins and maxes for a listing. If that's the case, make them as wide as possible. So on the min, go as low as they'll let you, and on the max, go as high as they'll let you. You basically want the mins and maxes in Seller Central to be wider in range than they are set in Aura. That's going to help avoid a lot of those issues. But given how much or how high the volume is that you're getting of these, especially on the low pricing error, it's probably going to be a min-max Seller Central issue. So that should help remove a lot of those problems for you. What do we do to get around high pricing error if we are using Maven? Casey, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so in that case, Maven does, what's the word? It's kind of a fluent optimal max price that Maven will calculate based on, current competition, previous sales data, and things of that nature. If you see that Maven is pricing you too high and that's leading to those high pricing errors, I would make the same recommendation that Dylan just made for Jim, which is to double check, make sure that you don't have min and max prices set for those listings in Seller Central. But if you do, I would recommend raising that max price to be probably higher than you think it should be, so that it's higher than whatever optimal max price Maven may calculate now or in the future. That'll be the best way to avoid those moving forward. The other option you have there would be to set a manual max price on that listing and kind of override Maven's optimal max price calculations. So those will be the two best ways. You'll have a little bit more direct control if you do set a manual max price. However, Maven will be a little bit more effective in calculating that. So if you'd like to continue to have Maven calculate that max price, you'll just want to edit that entered max price on Seller Central and raise that a bit.
Awesome. See, Jim, I could not just delete the pricing they have. Sometimes they will allow you to, other times they will not. That's why we recommend, if they do not allow you to remove the mins and maxes in Seller Central, you make them as wide as possible, even to the extent that your min is 1 penny. Like it could be that dramatic. Because keep in mind, that doesn't mean that's actually where we're going to go, or is going to use what it has for its mins and maxes there. So that does not mean that it's going to cause problems. But yeah, exactly. It seems one penny to 1 billion in Seller Central would be a great fix. Basically, yeah, if they let you do that, but even if it's like the max is always like $1,000 and the min is always 1 penny. Now, moving forward, depending on what software you're using to create your shipments and create your listings, if there is a setting to set that and send them to Seller Central, turn that off in IL, whatever, Box and whatever software you're using. You really don't want those softwares to be setting your mins and maxes for you. That is going to push them into Seller Central and then cause problems. So for your current listings, do this wide range process, but moving forward for all new shipments and new listings, don't do that at all. Try to avoid having those set period. And then over time, that will become less and less and less of a problem for you to have to deal with. Exactly. So far, I trust Aura more than Amazon, 1000%. We're actually using the mins and maxes. Seller Central is not, which is kind of hilarious. So just enter the cost price in the other software. That's correct. You just want to enter in your cost price, especially if it's an integration that we have within Aura. That way we can pull those costs for you automatically. Mins and maxes really should only ever be set in your repricing software. That's only where they're ever actually used. Or you can just enter it into Aura. I will say though, for less redundant work, if we integrate with that software, you should do it there. That way, that software also has the data, which is better than it not having the data. And then we can import it directly into Aura, and then we can utilize it more effectively. Awesome. Perfect. It's a lot of these subtle nuances, that once that starts to click and the process makes sense, it's going to help you avoid a lot of problems. It doesn't seem like mins and maxes in Seller Central would cause a problem, and it kind of makes it seem like you should have them. But in reality, they actually cause a lot of, frustration, for lack of a better term. So there are those kind of things that you really want to avoid. That way you don't have these headaches moving forward.
Yeah, awesome. all this stuff falls into that front 80% of legwork that you want to try and take care of, so then you can have it fully automate and be self-sufficient on its own.
Exactly. Awesome. So we are going to wrap up here for time. Appreciate everybody coming and all the amazing conversations. We appreciate all the great questions here. Another heads up, again, we will not be having office hours next Wednesday. Outside of that, we do this every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. EST. There is no format here. It's open office hours, meaning we are just here to answer your questions and geek out with you guys, whether that has to do with sourcing, wholesale, RA, OA, repricing, Aura specifically, does not matter. We want to make sure that this is a super high value hour every week for you guys. And we can steer you in the right direction, give you some nice insights that may not be obvious, like the Seller Central Mins and Max kind of concept here. But with that, we're going to let you get back to the rest of your week. And if you're going to the Miami Seller Conference or the Proven Conference, please come hang out with us. We want to geek out with you. We want to take pictures with you guys. We want to ask you questions. And we want your honest feedback on how Aura is doing so far and how we can improve. But with that, we will let you get back to the rest of your week and enjoy it.
Yeah, have a good rest of the week, folks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.